Look at the beaches of Saundersfoot, Wiseman's Bridge and Amroth today, and you'll see one of the most peaceful coastlines in Britain. Golden sand, quiet villages, gentle waves rolling into Carmarthen Bay. It's almost impossible to imagine that in the summer of 1943, these same beaches became one of the most heavily guarded military areas in the country. Roads were closed. Military police manned checkpoints. Local people needed passes to travel. The coastline had vanished behind a wall of secrecy. Almost overnight, thousands of Allied troops poured into the towns and villages of southwest Wales. Tenby's narrow streets filled with soldiers, military vehicles and endless convoys. Hotels, schools and large buildings became temporary accommodation. To local people, it must have seemed as though an entire army had arrived on their doorstep. Because here, in southwest Wales, Britain was preparing for the biggest invasion in history. Not D-Day itself, but the rehearsal that helped make D-Day possible. Operation JANTZEN. The Allies already knew how to fight. What they didn't know was whether they could land an entire army on an open beach. Not just soldiers, but tanks, trucks, artillery, fuel, food, medical supplies. Everything needed to keep an army moving after the first men reached the shore. If that failed, the invasion of Europe would fail. Soon the sea filled with ships. Landing craft carried wave after wave of infantry towards the beaches. Others brought trucks, artillery, and heavy equipment. Tracked amphibious alligators crawled ashore. Larger landing craft grounded deliberately on the sand to unload their cargo. Within minutes, thousands of men and vehicles were trying to move inland. Then the problems started. Heavy vehicles became bogged down. Traffic jams blocked narrow beach exits. Landing craft grounded on falling tides. Recovery crews fought to pull stranded vehicles free. Exactly the problems the exercise had been designed to uncover. Royal Engineers immediately went to work. Temporary roads were laid across soft sand. Beach exits were widened. Traffic routes were organised. Military police kept vehicles moving. Fuel dumps appeared. Field workshops repaired broken equipment. Every problem was studied. Every mistake was recorded, because if these problems happened here, they would happen again in France. The exercise wasn't only about the beaches. The Royal Air Force also had an important role. Aircraft photographed the coastline. Reconnaissance monitored the landings. Meanwhile, Royal Engineers and RAF personnel prepared temporary landing grounds in nearby fields. Once the invasion began, fighters and transport aircraft would need forward airstrips almost immediately. JANTZEN proved they could be built. Offshore, the Royal Navy continued feeding the beaches. Landing craft circled in carefully timed waves. Supply vessels waited their turn. Coasters delivered stores. Every movement was rehearsed, every minute measured. This wasn't simply a military exercise, it was the blueprint for invading Fortress Europe. There is even a long-standing local story that Winston Churchill visited to watch the exercise. Whether that happened exactly as remembered remains uncertain. But one thing is beyond doubt. From the cliffs above these beaches, the future of amphibious warfare was taking shape. Less than a year later, the Allies landed in Normandy. Many of the problems they faced had already been discovered here. Many of the solutions had already been tested here. Operation JANTZEN wasn't the invasion, but it helped make the invasion possible. Today, visitors walk these beaches without realising what happened beneath their feet. Yet this quiet stretch of the Welsh coastline played its own part in one of history's greatest military operations. Before Normandy, before D-Day, there was Operation JANTZEN, and it happened here. Like and subscribe to Wales at War for more untold stories.